All right, thank you, Jim. Looks like we're live and ready to roll here, guys. Thanks for showing up. Let me start with the formality of reading Governor Baker's announcement. So I'm Noam Corbin. I'm the chair of the Northborough Historic District Commission, and this open meeting of the Northborough Historic District Commission is being conducted pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16, 2021. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. There will be no in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Historic District Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Historic District Commission to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is affordable so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. So we got that out of the way. The next step is a roll call. We'll see who's here and make sure everybody's working fine. So just let me know you're live in the live. So Millie.
I'm here.
Great. Mike.
Present.
Brian Smith.
Present.
Mr. Swanson.
Here.
Amanda.
Here.
Leslie.
Here.
Bob.
Here.
And Tom. Okay, you're muted, Tom. Perfect. Oh. And we'll wait a second because Lorna's coming in.
How's that?
Hi, Lorna. Perfect timing. I'm going through the roll call. Are you here?
I'm here.
Excellent. Very good. So Bruce Shute can't make it. I mentioned it earlier. Mondays are a conflict for him at work. So Brian Swanson has volunteered to do the meeting minutes this week. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate this. So I'm looking at the agenda. And the first item on the agenda are the meeting minutes. I got them out just this morning. Sorry about that. So I don't think you've probably had a chance to read them. Did you all get them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to take a minute to read them? Or are you ready to go right now for the vote?
I'm all set. I'm all
I'm all
set.
set.
All set.
I have not read them yet, but oh, they're two sets of minutes too.
Yeah, we'll give you a minute, Leslie.
Actually, I took the Evelyn Wood speed reading course.
Good thing.
I didn't, but I can pretend like I did. Am I dating myself by making that reference?
You
Yeah.
probably are, but that's okay. Most of us know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've heard of it, unfortunately.
Mike's name is spelled incorrectly.
Oh, good point.
Yeah,
I have it on the screen here. Hey, Mike, let me do the editing live.
Yeah.
This is for what date is this?
It's the 8/18. Wait,
Okay.
I don't think there's an S in there, but I was able to cheat by coming back to
No,
the Zoom session.
you're absolutely good for you for catching that. That I did catch that, but I just figured it wasn't worth,
And then he's got you've got EA twice.
All right, so Mike, do me a favor and rattle or slowly give me your spelling.
yep, ready?
Yeah,
Okay, D,
yeah,
U,
got it.
C,
D-U-D,
D, U, C.
got it.
You know, Norm, you can read it on his profile. It's right on the
Oh,
screen.
I see, I see.
You want me to
Well,
keep-
that means I gotta have two things open at the same
Okay,
time.
sorry.
Let's just do it this way, okay?
All right,
Sorry.
let's- From the top. I'm just gonna go
D-U-C-H.
right through. D, U, C, H, E,
Yeah.
S, N, E, A, U.
All right, I didn't get it, Paul, Mike.
Lots of
D-U-C
vowels.
One more time, please.
D, U, C, H, E, S, N, E, A, U.
All right. As another French Canadian, I should know how to spell that. D-U-C-H-U-E-S.
No,
Get rid of that U.
you'll do it one more time. I'll go right through it, buzz right through it. Ready?
Yeah,
D, U, C, H, E, S, N, E, A, U.
got it. Thank you.
Actually, it's right in the other one. Now I'm looking at the 9:20 minutes, and it's
All
correct in there.
right, so we got one right. And
I did see that, but you know what?
we'll
My name's been mispronounced and misspelled so many times, I don't even, it's not worth changing.
Otherwise, with a quick pass, they look good.
But thank you for catching that, Leslie.
Sure.
All right, so are we all ready for any other comments on the August 18th, 2021 meeting minutes?
Yeah, Norm, on, under old business, the paragraph that starts 2 markers are to be installed. You see that?
Yes,
It says, there's a sentence there that says placement to be determined in the future.
yes.
For clarification, I thought they already picked the spot. It was going to be on Lyman
You gotta
Street.
remember, this is the meeting minutes from 3 months ago.
Okay, okay.
That's the hard part. When I was reviewing, it's like, oh yeah, it's not new news, it's the news from that month, from that meeting day.
Right, yeah, I had taken down some notes. I thought that it was, at that time, it was determined where it would be. That's okay. Just, so as long as we'll update it for the next minutes when we talk about this.
Anything else? All right, if I have a motion for that, we can move that one along.
I move we approve the minutes from the August 18th meeting of the Northborough Historic District Commission.
Second,
Okey doke, and we'll do the roll call. Millie,
aye. Approved.
Mike,
Approve.
Brian Smith,
Approve.
Brian Swanson,
Approve.
Leslie.
Approved.
Okay, so we got all the voting members. That passes unanimously.
And you too.
And I approve, thank you. All right, so now let's go to the other minutes. That's for the 9th, September 20th. Mike, it looks like we got Mike's name spelt right. Okay, progress.
I noticed I left Amanda's last name off.
Oh,
Okay. it's
yes.
long.
While we're fixing the Millet, M-I-L-L-E-T-T?
E at the end.
M-I-L-L-E-T-E. No, that
Two
ain't right.
T's. M-I-L-L-E-T-T-E.
That looks right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else seeing anything we want to mention on the minutes?
I move we approve the September 20th meeting minutes.
Thank you, Leslie.
Second,
Perfect. Now the roll call. Millie,
yes. Approved.
Mike,
Approve.
Brian Smith,
Approved.
Brian Swanson,
Approved.
Leslie,
Approved.
and I approve. So that was easy. We're all done with the meeting minutes. Thank you, guys and girls. All right. So the next topic is request for funding for Community Preservation Act funding. Why don't we start with, we have 2 submissions that were going in. So we need to review them, make sure we're all on the same page. And then I have to get them into the town hall by November the 4th. So let me find it so I can pull it up off my files. We'll start with the Brigham Street Burial Ground Beautification Project. Right, this should be this. Has anybody had a chance to take a look-see and see if there's anything we need to consider or change?
I have not, I'm sorry.
Well, I want to give you a deadbolts, a quick update anyway, so we're all on the same page. So this is to improve the Brigham Street Burial Ground, and we're calling it the Beautification Project because there's several parts to it. There's 3 parts. One is to remove all the dead trees. There's about 20 dead trees there. That includes cutting them out, getting them off the land, and then also grinding the stumps and backfilling with loom. We are looking at putting a historic looking post and chain fencing parallel to Brigham Street. And then there'll be some roadside improvements, which is pretty much putting some gravel down near where our signs are, both the signs for the cemetery and the new information sign. Put some gravel down so it'll be a little bit better for us, a small area to pull over safely and park. The budget for that, the total cost of the project is $137,000 plus a little bit more dollars. And there's a breakdown on the cost. Now, all the cost has come from the DPW director and his contacts. So that's where those numbers have all come from. I sent along on the email another list, I think, with a breakdown of the, find it.
Hey, Norm,
Yep.
I noticed that you have the DPW and Scott Charpentier as the requesting entity and also like the project manager. That's correct, right? It's not us, it's them?
We're working with them, but since it's really a DPW project, it makes more sense for him to be the key contact.
Oh, it is a DPW project, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna, it's on their land. He's gonna have to coordinate with all of the work. He didn't mind being the contact for it. Kind of like it's our idea and he's grabbing the bull by the horns and he's gonna get it done.
I guess my question was, what would our role be as this thing progresses? Is it just, once we submit this thing and hopefully get it approved, is there, what is it that we do? Do we get involved in, like overseeing contractors, looking at, what they budget, any of that kind of stuff, or?
No, not at all. Our responsibility is what we've done so far. We've came up with the idea. We approached DPW saying, hey, let's get some CPA money here to fix up the property and get rid of some of these trees. So we generated the idea. We recommended the fencing along Brigham Street. We also recommended to improve something in terms of being able to pull off the car off the road safely. So pretty much our role is done now. They're going to carry the responsibility of the project and the pricing and all of that.
Okay. That
At
makes
least
it
that's
easy.
the way I see it. And it's pretty straightforward, for them.
Hey, Norm,
Yeah.
can we review the bid documents before they go out to bid?
We could, there would be bid documents for tree removal and documents for the fencing.
Fencing, signage, parking, yeah.
I can request that we review the bid documents. That's straightforward.
Okay,
Let me
So-
make a note so I keep that in mind.
So the DPW will prepare those documents?
no, they'd go out to bid to get a bid documents prepared.
But the documents that go out to request for bids, who prepares those who says, they attach drawings and specs and whatnot? Is that something the DPW does?
No, they would probably hire a
Consultant?
civil engineer.
I see.
Well, this should be pretty straightforward. I mean, I imagine they're gonna have to get 3 quotes to get the trees off the land. And then they're gonna look at the design of the fencing we have, and they're probably gonna try to find 3 companies that install that type of fencing and get quotes on that. So I would think
Yeah,
that,
Tom, where do you envision a civil engineer being required?
Well, part of the proposal includes $15,000 for bid documents. The
that's true.
client is not going to provide their own bid documents. They're going to hire somebody to prepare them for them. So. I would
Doesn't
think that-
DPW just send the stuff out to bid? I thought they just did this.
Then why is there $15,000 for bid document?
Yeah, it's a good
preparation?
question. Where did Scott provide that number, Norm?
Yeah, those are all Scott's
Oh,
numbers.
oh, okay.
But look, let me make it clear, at least what I think our role is here. I think our role is to, these are all good questions, and I recommend that the Community Preservation Committee ask those questions when the DPW director is there and participating. I can't answer these questions. So I think the question about the bid documents, having us review them is a good one. In terms of all of the prices and the dollar values, those are questions and how it gets done. Those are questions for Scott. And I think he's going to have to present this to the Community Preservation Committee. And I'm sure these questions will come up then. You gotta
Is
make it
there
make
is there a group at the Northborough, I don't know, engineering department that gets involved in reviewing bids and approving bids, or how is there a procurement? I mean, I've worked at engineering companies and they have a whole separate procurement group. Do they have something akin to that in Northborough? I'm not familiar with.
I don't know how the final decisions are made in terms of costing. I mean, I know when we've put in for projects, we bring in 3 bids, and then we recommend which one we would prefer, and then it goes through to the purchasing department.
I see.
But again, these are all questions that I can't answer, and I think those
Yeah.
are all good questions, but Scott has to answer them.
I've got some questions you can
required to
answer.
use prevailing wages for this project?
I would, in here somewhere, it should be prevailing wages. Again, these are Scott questions. They're not questions I can answer.
It
I have
says,
questions you can answer.
It
It
says
says it-
prevailing wage, yeah, on the budget, number 4.
right.
I've got a couple questions you can answer.
Yep.
Can we make, so for the trees the tree removal is a big portion of that. What happens if we don't remove the trees? I haven't looked to see what's the condition of the trees. Are
They're dangerous.
they are, okay, all right. So once they're ground up, is there a use for the chips on the site at some, in some capacity?
It's a good question. Don't
Along
know
the
the
back
answer.
edge by the fence or, just, it seems like it might be nice to be able to take advantage of that some way. Just a thought.
Those are all good questions. But I can't answer them.
I thought you could
I
answer
thought-
that. What?
I thought the
No.
last time,
I think those are good ideas. I'm taking notes of the kinds of questions for, that Scott should address.
Okay, well, I just thought maybe because you're so familiar with the site, does it make sense to you? Can you envision, just visually, can you envision putting them somewhere?
Yes, it is possible that they could be used somewhere.
Okay.
That's, I think it's a good question for sure.
Okay, and then the other question I have is, it occurs to me we've made a historic district of the Howard Street Cemetery because that enabled us to get funding, matching funds. know
No,
it's a
no,
time-
no, we don't.
Wasn't that part of the?
Yeah,
Wasn't,
go ahead. Now,
we-
I'll let you finish because I may have jumped the gun here.
I thought we went for the historic district, or we did something so that we were eligible for matching funds for work on the Howard Street Cemetery.
We are in
I
the
wonder-
process of putting the Howard Street Cemetery on the National Register, which will then allow us to be able to access some state funds that would match 50/50 the cost, correct?
Okay,
Leslie?
okay. Would that be transferable to here? Not transferable, but would that same logic
It-
make sense to do that for this cemetery as well?
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. One,
There's nothing there.
Is- no,
Nothing
no,
there.
it's a timing thing, because I'm having my house put on the National Register just to get an idea. The documents for my home were put in 10 months ago. I contacted the woman who did the nominations, and she says, we're looking at least another 2 years from now because of the backlog.
Wow.
So the problem, the challenge we're gonna have is for the Howard Street Cemetery, which there are nothing that's emergency right now, that won't be on the National Register for probably 3 years. It's not a bad idea to put the Brigham Street Cemetery on the National Register, but those trees won't last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
So I think and that's the timing on this one.
Yeah, and going forward, I mean, the Howard Street Cemetery, there's got so much potential going forward for for maintenance.
Yeah,
This-
and the
this will
Howard
not
Street, it's gonna be
require.
a lot more money than 150 grand, but
Yeah.
Leslie, you're right, it's something to think about, but in this case, it's just doesn't fit the timing.
I mean, the other thing is just, does it make sense to put it on the National Register just for prestige? I don't know if there are other reasons for
It's
things
in
to
the
be
master
on.
plan. Putting that on the
Okay.
National Register is in the master plan.
Okay, great. Okay, all right, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, anything else? Because if I want to make corrections, I can make the corrections and then I actually got to get to town hall and make 16 copies because they still are on the paper trail. So it's not a big deal. I just don't want to make 16 copies wrong.
So can I ask you a procedural question, Norm, on that?
You can try.
Do you, I have to go through that same thing, hopefully. Do you, it says you have to have a date stamped at the, do you have to take all 16 copies and go up to the, no?
They want you to take one copy and get a date stamp and then make 16 copies of the date stamped
With-
copy.
Copies with the date on it.
All
I see.
copies need the date stamp.
So you have to go up to the third floor and get them, is that where they date stamp on the
Yeah,
third
they
floor?
do it in the town clerk's office. She state
Clerk.
stamps the application.
Okay.
And, it takes 2 minutes.
No, I just want to make sure I don't forget something.
No, it's, you don't want to forget that one.
No.
All right, so I feel more comfortable if we vote that we're going to pursue this. So do you mind if someone make a motion that we are going to pursue the Brigham Street beautification project?
I make a motion that we promote and support the Brigham Street Unification Project.
Second,
All right, and I will do the roll call for the voting members to see how that works. Start with Millie,
Yes.
Mike,
Approved, yes.
Brian,
yes.
Smith, Brian Swanson,
Yes,
and Leslie,
Yes.
and then myself is a yes. So that goes to the next step, which is getting it state stamped.
Hey, Norm, could I ask one more question on that?
Yeah.
I know we already approved it, but there's a section where, and we'll be talking about it later, where you have to add a letter of support. Do we, as the Northborough Historic District Commission, have to add a letter of support to the Brigham Street beautification project?
Ooh. Well, if you look at it, we're also the co-sponsors of it.
I wasn't sure how that worked. Because it
uh,
seems like there might be a conflict there. But then.
well, I
yeah,
mean, we've just approved that we're gonna go forward with it, so that's pretty
Right.
much, I think we covered ourselves with that. I don't think
Okay.
we need to write ourselves a letter saying we're gonna approve it.
Well, we could be at least in the document, in the application, so that well, I don't know. So that the commission, the Community Preservation Committee knows that we approved it. But I suppose.
You're making a good point, Michael, and it's just a matter of, I can just make a short email and add that to the document, just saying that we met on this day, we approved it at the time, and there's no harm in doing it for sure. So Mike, I think that's
I
what
mean, you
I'll
could
do.
just say unanimously approved to show that we all put our support in, that there wasn't any dissension.
Yeah,
Maybe that would help.
that's a good idea to document it. All right. Very good. Let's see. So let me find that other one so I can read it. All right, so the other one that we're submitting for is Howard Street Cemetery signs. Brian Swanson pulled this together for us. Thank you, Brian. Really helpful. So has everybody taken a look at it to understand exactly what the project is? I can run it down pretty quick. It's not a big project. So I'll do that. The newer part of the cemetery, it's called the Kaiser section, has an entrance on both Whitney Street and on Howard Street. And there are no really clear markings that it's a cemetery. We've installed in the past few years 3 nice signs to mark that the burial grounds in the older cemeteries. And I think it's a good fit to put signs for that other part of the cemetery. It's also the most active part of the cemetery for all the new burials. So we're looking to make, the initial thought right now is to put very similar sign design at both entrances into that cemetery. So we're looking at, let's see. We got a total price, including inflation, because you got to remember, these things don't get installed till almost a year from now. So we're estimating the budget cost to be $5,124 to manufacture 2 signs.
And install.
And install, correct. Brian did have a good question. Brian Swanson had a good question, and he wanted to know if we could put the signs, instead of hanging on a post, could we mount them onto the stone monuments? That's an option. I don't know if we'll pursue it, but if the only thing we probably would need to know is if there's a difference in price for the mounting on the stone monument rather than putting it on a post, to make sure our costs are covered in case we take that route.
Which stone monument? I'm not.
When you go into those cemeteries on both sides of the road, the entrance road, there's a stone, it's about my height, so it's probably a 5-foot stone pillar that they put of not cobblestone, but of
Like
river
flagstone?
stone. So it's an option. It's just something that Brian said, could we consider that? And the loose end is we don't know what it will cost right now. And if we don't, personally, I don't know if it's the right idea, but we should at least find the cost.
Yeah, if we had the sign on the post, would it be closer to the road and more visible? Then I'm not knowing where the monuments are that you're proposing them. You can visualize it, but
The monuments are pretty visible. They're right there, and
Yeah.
8 feet from the road or something.
okay.
I think that my personal observation is, if you're driving by, the signs, the way they're situated to the street, as you're driving up, you can see the sign. You put them on the stone markers, you may drive by it before you realize that's where the entrance is. So I'm not sure yet, but we don't have to decide that now. We just should make sure if it's an additional price that we keep that in, we put that in, cover our options. This doesn't, remember, this does not get reviewed by the Community Preservation Commission until January and February. So we just need to have a good, get our ducks in a row for those meetings for sure.
Do you want me to get in touch with the sign guy and just ask him what the difference would be so we're sure we're covered?
That would be great, Brian. Yeah,
Okay.
just ask him if he could mount it, if we were to mount it somehow, because it might mean a different design on the back of the sign. There might be some little things that they would know.
Yeah, because the signs right now have two sides.
Right.
Correct. That's the other thing. The signs right now with two sides. This would be one side. Yeah. I think it's something that we should think about and see if it makes sense at this point. I do like the continuity of it being the same as the other three, but at this point, let's just take a look, see what it might cost. So the way I would do it now, shut this off. The way I would do it now is Brian Swanson hopefully will get a number that we can check and make sure the number that's in the current document is sufficient, or if we have to increase it. And then I will, with your permission, then I can put that in for the November 4th deadline. So what I'm asking for you is to okay the document as is, but it could go up in a dollar value. We don't know if it will or not, but I'd like the okay now so I can get it on that November 4th deadline. That making sense?
Yep.
What I'm trying to do? All right. So with the consideration of a possible redesign of the sign, can I have someone make a motion that we continue to pursue this funding for these for this project?
So moved.
Thanks, Leslie.
Second,
Great, Millie. All right, so we'll do the roll call thing. Millie,
aye.
Mike,
Approve, yes.
Brian Smith,
yes,
Mr. Swanson,
Yes.
Leslie,
Aye.
and I am an aye. So it's unanimous. We'll pursue this. The DPW director thought it was a great idea to have some kind of sign there. So we're on the same page with him, which is great. All right, number 3. The Trails Committee was not able to get me a final CPA request for us this evening. So we will revisit that in November. But I thought I would give you the opportunity to see what the Trails Committee is planning, because it's a very interesting project, and they're trying to figure out how best to approach the project. It's the opening up of the aqueduct over the Assabet River for pedestrian traffic. That's the project. It's something that's been thought about for a long time. And now they're starting to do some homework to get an idea what they would have to do and what the cost would be to make that pedestrian safe. Much to their surprise, just some paperwork just fell in the right drawer, but nobody had a chance to read it. The bridge has been completely evaluated, no cost to the town of Northborough by MWRA about 5 years ago in terms of its structural stability, and it passes. So the first thing is the bridge is safe for pedestrian traffic. So that's been done. They thought that would have been the first step, but the first step is complete. So now they're coming up with a project plan on what has to be done to make it so that it could be used safely. There's still some issues about the walking surface and the condition of the walking surface and the fencing, and some of the wiring is low, some of the power lines and stuff. So
Mhm.
we'll know a lot more in a month. I'm pretty excited that this is now hitting the ground. It's gonna.
I have a little more information because we talked about it at our Open Space Committee meeting.
Oh, sure, Leslie.
So the power lines will be submerged. They can be moved. They had to evaluate whether they could be moved, and they're looking into submerging, basically burying them. So that was good news. I proposed a zip line, but that didn't go over. And yeah, what you had said about the, the structural integrity of it. So that was great news as well. And it's going to be this is a big project. I heard the price of like $1 million project thrown around.
If
This
they're
is-
lucky.
This is huge.
Yeah, it's a
Potential to be
huge
huge,
project. So there should be a probably grants between CPA and the like. So that'll be a good one. So that's all we have for them. And hopefully next meeting, we'll have an application with hard dollar numbers and a more better scope of what has to get done.
So
All right.
Leslie,
and,
you said that the power lines were going to be submerged,
Yeah,
but is that by the power company or is that the?
we'd have to pay. It doesn't come without cost, but that was what was discussed. So we'll see what the finances are, but
All right. So the last CPA request is from the Historical Society. And Mike, why don't you walk us through what the plans are and
Okay.
and the like. And I think I should have forwarded a draft that Mike forwarded a couple of days ago to you. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but he did update it to me today. There are some changes, but Mike, I never got the chance to forward out your updated photographs.
If you want, I could try to do that right now. I don't know if I could do it, but
Are you able to share? Because you could just bring them up onto your, is that your computer
No,
or your?
no, I don't have that capability, but
All right,
Anyway,
why don't you
why don't-
start talking about, if I can do shared screen, I'll know in a second. I
okay.
can. So why don't you start talking about the project
Sure.
and I'll bring up your proposal.
Sure. So last year, the Historic Society was awarded $20,000 to paint the building. And I look at this as a lot of other people do, is that this is more or less the sort of the completion of that painting project, which is currently underway. And so the historic background is the building, and I included a picture pre-hurricane of 1938 that shows the building with shutters. And as you go and inspect the windows, you can see the hardware that held the shutters on are still there. So essentially what we're about is to try to, now that we have the building, or will shortly have the building painted, we would like to have the shutters placed back to restore the building to minus the steeple 1938 condition. So we went and got contact with 8 different vendors. We got 2 quotes. One is the one that we're submitting. It's the higher of the 2. The second one doesn't or didn't include installation, painting, and hardware, whereas the one that we're recommending does all of that. So the shutters will be custom shutters with the hardware. The hardware will all be, the old hardware will be replaced. And we'll end up with a building restored to prior to the 1938 hurricane. So essentially that's our goal here. And Norm has included some of the attachments that I included. The total cost is $55,000.
So these are the conditions of the current shutters. You can see they're pretty well damaged. These were were these on the front of the building?
Yeah,
Mike?
the only shutters, there's like 5 shutters minus the arch shutters that are there now, and the ones that you see in the picture, those are the ones that were removed for the painting. And the shutter vendor who had come up to look at the building and size it up just took a couple of minutes and looked at it and said, they're just not worth restoring or repairing. They're a lot of dry rot. I mean, by the time he drills out all the mortise and tenon joints And the material is pine. He'll be using red cedar. So he said it's just not worth putting back those shutters. And so his quote included replacement of not only the shutters, the 5 shutters that are there, but all of the shutters that will be on the side of the building, as shown in the picture that Norm was just showing.
Sure looks nice with the steeple. Have you considered
Yeah.
putting the steeple back?
Well, we have talked about that, but
Really?
I can tell you there was a lot of pushback from the society in that, you know, the cost, we don't even have a cost, but we did talk to some contractors about it. The costs just seem to be astronomical. But yeah, I agree with you, Leslie. It would be something to think about. Plus, the bell that's in the front of the Historical Society was actually in the belfry, and it's now in the front lawn where it landed after the 38 hurricane. So yeah, that would be kind of an interesting follow-up project, but you know, at this point, the shutters would be more than enough. So you know, I don't know how well people are familiar with the Historical Society. I am currently vice president, and we do we maintain the town museum. We maintain the town archive. There's a separate attached building where we have quite a bit of historical records from the town. On Friday nights, we have a brief meeting for the society, and we normally will host a guest speaker. And last week we moved to the Trinity Church because of COVID issues. Everyone is masked, but the Trinity Church is a larger space, so we can get more space between people. And last week was very interesting. It was Lucy Stone, who was a suffragette, and she was one of the first suffragettes that I think she was actually pre Susan B. Anthony, and it was very interesting, very well done. The woman who gave the presentation actually does a Lucy Stone, like she recites her life as if she is Lucy Stone. So it's kind of interesting. But we do those Friday night speaker things that are reasonably well attended. We've obviously during COVID we have not met. Last week was the first time we met in mandatory mask, and we spread out. So we're hoping that we can slowly kind of get back in shape. But basically, this is a restoration of the building. And as I said, I think it's more of the completion of the painting. You know, the thought was, we're going to go and paint this building. It's going to be beautiful painting, but then, you know, do you really want to put back these shutters that are all broken and falling apart? So
Yeah.
that's kind of where this stands. So as part of the application, I mentioned to Norm earlier, we need to have show community support. And last year, we got a letter from the Historic District Commission showing that support, and that I'm sure was a big plus in convincing the Preservation Committee, that we did have community support. So again, this year we're looking for the same letter for the shutter project.
Mike, I have a couple questions, and Tom Reardon, I'd like your opinion also. When I looked at the contractor that shows the most promise for the installations, they're going to supply essentially original hardware design. They're not just going to screw the shutters onto the siding. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So they conceivably could be working shutters.
They conceivably could be. There are a couple of things and I spoke to the contractor quite a bit about it. The biggest hurdle is the presence of storm windows. So back before the hurricane, the shutters are obviously working, louvered. The top ones in the picture that you see there in the second floor I think were fixed because they don't have the anchors into the wall. So I think they were actually fixed to the side of the window, but they were working louvers. So they, they would be able to move the louvers up and down to get ventilation and decrease sunlight into the building. And so to the extent possible, we are going to try to make these working shutters. So he will replace that hardware. And the question is going to be, can we extend out the anchors far enough so that the shutters will clear the storm windows? It is possible that they won't meet all the way, like they would normally in the past working, but we're going to try to get them as close as we can, given the dimension, the weight of the shutter limitations.
So Mike, what was the hardware made out of in the proposal?
Steel. Yeah.
Galvanized?
I'm not sure. I know they'll be painted. I'm pretty sure they'll probably be galvanized. Yeah.
What would they have originally
I would
been, cast
recommend
iron?
Stainless steel if you could afford it, because
Stainless steel would be a better option if there's a structural, if we can, deal with the structural issue. But that's something I certainly will explore with him.
Yeah. What I'm seeing here is galvanized steel.
Yeah, I think it's galvanized steel. That's what he put in.
yeah, they're gonna start rusting in 5 to 6 years. So
Okay.
it's not
What would they originally have been? Cast iron or?
wrought iron, probably.
Yeah, wrought iron, just blacksmith kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, originally they were probably just handmade by blacksmiths, I would think. But they're still there, I'm not sure they're original, but there's certainly, every window there has a anchor attached to the side, the sill. And it's flush with the sill. So, a carpenter had to come in with a chisel and chisel out that notch. And I assume they were original or pretty close.
So there's another process called Tnemec coatings for galvanized steel that would hold up rather than just painting them.
Okay.
So they submit the iron to electric charge, and it binds the paint to the metal. So the next grade up would be with the Tnemec paint. The next grade up from that would be stainless steel.
Right. I will certainly talk to him about that. Thank you for that. That would, that's very helpful.
I had a question. This is not the shutters design that I expected, especially on the lower level. Those are like single panels it's not a panel on each side of the window. They're single panels. Is that the same plan for the restoration?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I asked him that same question because he said they're pairs. So he's going to basically attach 2 shutters as one. And that whole large shutter will then swing out around to the other side. Now, one of the things we have to deal with is there is a fire suppression standpipe on the right. So we might have to move them to the other side of that because we can't really take into account the fire standpipe on the right side of the lower right window. It's not shown in that picture because it wasn't there whenever this picture was taken.
So when you double the panels like the photograph indicates, you're essentially doubling the weight of the shutter, and
Right.
that is going to put double the weight on the hardware. And now you're relying on the strength of the fiber of the wood that is 150 years old to withstand double the loads. So Boy, they really need to look at that carefully. Otherwise, they're going to sag and then they won't
Right.
close. And it just becomes a maintenance problem.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, that's what was originally there, so we're trying to match that, but yeah, structurally, I can see your point. The hardware that's there is not in distress. It's not loose, it's not coming out of the sill. It doesn't look like it's bent over anyway. It looks pretty much as you would expect it to look. But yeah, that's another good point. I'll make sure I bring that up with them and talk to them. Would you recommend, Tom, splitting those up on either side, like
Well, I'd like to see the hardware and how many anchor points there are, how long those are, and what they're going into, because the whole system is dependent on the ability of the existing wood around the windows to support this cantilevered load.
Yeah,
So-
no, I hear what you're saying.
You know what?
Perhaps if we do keep the two shutters together, we could add a third anchor in the middle, because there's one on the bottom right now and there's one on the top. So you attach the shutters with those 2 points. Maybe we could add a third or even a fourth
Right.
to distribute that load better.
Yeah.
Good idea.
You're not concerned about, because those shutters never get shut. You're just concerned about the weight even when the shutters are open. Is that right?
Well,
Okay.
when the shutters are back recessed against the wall, there'll be a rest. So the shutters will rest on another piece of steel so that the weight of the shutters will be, distributed to the points where the anchors are in the sill, and then the rest that'll be attached to the side of the building.
Okay, so they are supported underneath somewhere
Yes.
else. So,
But when they swing open, they're not supported. They're just hanging there.
but
Now,
do you open and close them?
Yes, yeah,
You do. Okay, that was my question.
yeah.
And you
well,
also
we're gonna try to make that happen, but as I said, we have to there's space limitations as far as the storm windows that are there. So that means the pin might have to extend out a little bit further to clear that extension from the presence of the storm windows. I think if I looked at it, the storm windows extended out from the sill about, I don't know, an inch, 3/4 of an inch, something like that.
Okay,
But once we can, if we can do that, if the structural integrity of the steel is such that we can do that, then the windows will be the shutters, I'm sorry, will be working shutters.
okay.
This company, we met with them, we had a couple of folks from the Historical Society that are pretty knowledgeable in woodworking and whatnot. And, we all felt like this guy really was the real deal, I'll say. That he kind of knew, they do the milling, they take the raw wood in, the cedar, and they mill exactly, what you want. And he was familiar with, we looked around, we looked at all the hardware. He said he's seen them all before. And there was one rest on one side of the building that looked like it had been made by a blacksmith, and probably was.
Hmm.
And he said he hadn't really ever seen one of those before, but he said we can duplicate that. So
Hmm.
I thought he was a reasonably confident, well experienced guy to do this work, and so did the other guys too.
I have one question or comment, Mike. If
Sure.
it's on your screen now, you'll see I highlighted on the last paragraph in blue.
Yep.
All work will conform to the requirements described in the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and Illustrated
Right.
Guidebook, blah, blah. That is a necessity because of the CPA funding. That's a requirement. And I thought you had mentioned to me in the past, it would be great to have a letter from the the person that's being recommended for the shutter work, they get a letter from him that states that that's what he will do. I didn't
Okay.
see it in his literature when I looked through it.
No,
would-
he did, he didn't include it, and we did talk to him about that more than once. And we made it clear on our site visit that that was a requirement, and he didn't seem to have any problem with that, so.
Yeah, I think that would be good to have in writing. I mean, I'm
Okay.
looking at the work he did. This is not someone who's making some vinyl shutters that you're going to screw to the siding. This is really an authentic approach. But I think that would be an important letter to have from him, or just a real short letter, but just acknowledging that that's what he's striving for.
Okay,
Mike, you said these will even have the functional louvers as well?
yeah,
Wow, that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And when do
Yeah.
you envision doing that? Like you actually closing the shutters or using them?
well, I would think, they would be, and whenever there's, a storm, just like in how they were intended to be used. When there's a storm, you would, close the shutters, and on hot summer days, you might leave them open to get ventilation. I'm not really sure exactly when the requirements of how they or why they would move the louvers in pre-1938, but I would think the two things you're trying to accomplish is keeping the windows from getting destroyed by a storm, and getting ventilation into, at one point, which was a church, to get ventilation into a church, perhaps, to shade the church when it was really a hot summer day. They wanted to keep the sun from beating down inside the church.
Hmm.
But I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
most of it, I think it would be window protection and also ventilation.
Are they
Yeah,
hurricane?
I'm pretty excited, to see if we could bring that church back to some kind of restorative pre-1938 condition.
Mike, I think Tom had a question.
Oh, sorry.
Are they hurricane proof?
I don't know.
Apparently not.
Probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Something
they've
was.
increased the wind loads in Massachusetts, in Northborough. We're now up to 125 mile an hour, so we have to design for that. So you want to make sure that whatever they're designing, at least meets the code.
okay.
That's a great
Is
point.
that's the Mass Building Code?
Yeah, the wind loads in central Mass here in Northborough are 125 now.
Hmm.
Wow.
All right, does anybody else have any questions? If not, then what I'd like to, the next step would be for us to write a letter of support for this particular project. And what I'm trying to find out now is, everybody feel comfortable with that, or do they have a couple of questions they'd like to ask first? Is there something they would like included on this if we when we give our letter of recommendation? All right, so how about we do this then? Seeing we have no questions. I'd like a vote that we support this project and that we write a letter of recommendation for this project. So if someone could make a motion along those lines, that would be good.
So moved along those lines.
All right. Somebody want to second that?
I will second.
Okay. Now let me make sure I can do this right. Get all my people in my pictures here. So we'll start with Millie.
Aye.
Mike, Mike won't vote on this one. Brian Smith,
I'm recused.
I agree.
Mr. Swanson,
Approved.
Leslie,
Aye.
and myself, and I say aye. So the next step is I will put together a letter of support, sign it, and I will send it off to you, Mike. Is that the right way to do it?
Yeah, I'm kind of coordinating the submission, so yeah, that'd be good.
Okay.
You can address it to Rick though, right? If you want.
Okay, well, address to, yeah, the president.
Ferenchik. And I'll, if you send it to me, I'll either electronically or if you send it, well, if you send it.
You'll get it
hard
as an email.
copy- Okay. I
You'll get
can
it as
see-
an email. And
Okay. I'll put it
I
in.
may not get to it till later in the week, between company and
That's fine.
traveling this week. But it's coming.
I have to just get it timestamped before noon on November 4th.
Got it. We know that procedure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thanks, Mike.
for all the
Good luck
members.
with that.
Mike,
Thank you. Thanks, Tom, for all your help on that.
So, next on the agenda is the historic preservation plan. I sent that out sometime last week, and I'm gonna try to find it and pull it up. Let's see what we got here.
For the record, I made very few suggestions. It was in incredible shape already.
great.
You tidied it up very nice for us. I gotta give you credit. That was really, really helpful.
It looked very good.
Yeah, I have no comments. I looked through it. It looks fine.
Yeah,
Well, I just want to walk you guys through to make sure that the timing, the thing that I added to it this time was some kind of timing. And just see if we're in agreement that they're in the right ballpark. So that's the purple in this thing. Let me blow it up a little bit. So I should be able to scroll through this pretty quick. So quite a few of them are either ongoing or as needed. And at least that's my opinion. And I just want to I want to make sure I'm on the right page. So for education needs, I have it as ongoing. Just what the best way to do is if somebody says something that wants to input, then just speak up, okay? So this is kind of the heart of the program now, heart of the preservation plan. So the first one, prepare historic preservation plan, and I have it as near term, which is 1 to 3 years. Hopefully we'd do better than that. Continuing to promote awareness of Northborough history. So the first one is publishing articles in community papers. That's ongoing. Collaborate with the Historical Society on historical projects and programs. I have that as ongoing. Continue the program of installing historic markers around town is ongoing. Letters of appreciation, ongoing. Approach the Northborough schools to look for ways to incorporate local history. I have that as near term, so that's 1 to 3 years. Approach the Northborough Cable Access Director for possible history programs. That's the same time frame, 1 to 3 years. Collaborate with other commissions and committees. I have that as near term, 1 to 3 years. Update the historical commissions. We have a brochure that's a little outdated now, and our website might need a little more tweaking. I think that's probably a near-term thing. I didn't realize that there were all these history months. There's National History Month, Women's History Month, Preservation Month, and Archaeology Month. So those, I have that as ongoing. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Okay.
What
Promote-
about Black History? What about Black History Month?
Oh, I didn't think of that one. I don't have, this is my, I'm looking at the PDF, so I can't edit that. All right, that's good.
I think it's January.
We'll add Black History Month to it.
February.
February?
That makes sense. It's Martin Luther King.
Yeah, it's February. Yeah.
So, yeah, good comment. We'll stick that one in, no problem.
It's actually, so there's African History Month, there's National Women's, there's National Deaf History Month, there's Asian Pacific American Heritage, there's Jewish American Heritage, a lot of them.
What site are you looking at?
Heritage Month Guide, of course, diversity. diversitycentral.com. January, there are none for January yet. Irish American Heritage Month. We've got National Deaf History Month, Gay Lesbian Pride Month, National Hispanic Latino Heritage Month. We're in that right now, or we just
It's funny you're saying that. Well, nothing funny, but it's interesting you're saying that because, you know, Bob and I participated in the meeting with the Inclusion Committee. And, you know, you're rattling off all of the inclusion groups.
well, another one, November is National American Indian Heritage Month. That seems like a good one to include as well. Is the chat? I didn't check to see if the chat's usable here. No, there's no chat, so I can't put it in here, but
All right, so we should add Black History Month and we should add American Indian Month. Is that what we want to do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely those two.
yeah.
Got it. Good. So now we're on promote and protection of antique properties, which includes buildings, archaeological sites, structures, documents, artifacts, landscapes, and agricultural lands. So the first one has to do with our historic assets inventory, which only really go to the year 1910. So it'd be expanding that. So I have that as ongoing. We can start adding some of those things. I don't have not that I'm looking at it. Oh, actually, this has to deal with the oldest properties in town, the ones built before 1771, and yeah, that one's ongoing. I have it as ongoing. Community. The next one, using more CPA funding for preservation and protection of historic documents, and I think that's something near term. The Historical Society and some of the older churches in town should have some very historical documents. We should communicate with them, find a way to protect them, and see if they would be interested in a project for that. I think we can do that near term.
What number is that one? Where's that one?
It's not a number. It's the second dot down
On page 3.
on page 3. Thank you, Bob. Let me do that so I can.
Mike with your magnifying glass.
I've been looking at that. It's cracking me up.
I'm sorry, but I need it.
Looks
It's
like-
called glasses,
funny.
Mike. Peters,
Yeah.
I'll buy you a pair.
I'm doing this on my phone, so
God, I love it.
Funny.
All right. Where was I? The historic documents. I said near term. In near term, we'll approach some of these facilities. Open space and woodlands. Essentially working with the open space and conservation committees, and I think that's ongoing. I think there's a lot of things that open space and conservation does that we should really be working with them closely. Evaluating archaeological sites in town is something we've considered, and Mike did some homework on. I think we should be able to try to get funding for that in the near term, 1 to 3 years. Work with veteran organizations to have the war memorials cleaned. I noticed they just did the one at the corner of Blake and Hudson. So that one's been cleaned, but I think some of the other ones should also be cleaned. That should be in near term. Also consider.
So who paid to have it cleaned?
I don't know. They've actually redoing that whole site. I don't know. I just happened to drive by it and notice that they put a whole new stonework down, and it was clean.
Oh, wow.
So that's a project I just, like I said, I drove by it and noticed it the other day. Things to do with the Brigham Street burial ground is the dead trees and the fence. I put that on the near term. The Howard Street Cemetery, there's 2 steps after it's on the inventory, after it's on a national register. The next step is to inventory the stones and their conditions. And finally, to find out which ones need to be repaired and get a project to have them repaired. So that's 2 different projects. And that's probably more in the 3 to 6 year time frame before we get that up and running. Closely work with the Trails Committee to reopen the Aqueduct Bridge over the Assabet River. And I put that as long-term. It's probably, even if they start it now, I think it's in the 6 to 10 year kind of a thing, by the time they figure out how much it's gonna cost and get the funding and what they need to do. But I can, I'm looking for any feedback on any of these that don't seem to be quite in line. This was the one I got mixed up with before. I apologize for that. So this one, NCH 2-4, has to do with increasing the inventories of the town's assets. We stopped at about 1910, except for a couple prices that were unique. So I think midterm, we should revisit that and see what other properties we should be considering to add to the inventory. Again, it could be anything that's older than 50 years old. So it's looking at stuff from the before 1970. I don't know if it makes sense to put everything from 1970s into an inventory, but there may be some unique properties that maybe we should consider. This is a key one. How do we incentivize restoration, rehabilitation, and beautification efforts? We need to find a way to understand more how to give property owners the incentive to do preservation and restoration. What kind of funding's available, things like that. So I said that's midterm because we have to do homework on that one to understand how the options are. And then, of course, this second dot is a key area of interest is downtown Main Street. And I think that's something that we need to work with a downtown improvement committee to understand how best to preserve those antique homes on Main Street. And I'm thinking that that's probably going to be midterm by the time a downtown improvement committee is up and running. All right, so far so good.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
7.5, that's repurposing surplus town-owned buildings. And they're all, let's see, White Cliffs, I put as, so White Cliffs is the first one. I put that as midterm. So hopefully that's midterm is 3 to 6 years. I hope midterm is correct. I don't want it to be long-term, and it's not going to be short-term. I can't see it in 1 to 3 years. So I'll put that as midterm. 13 Church Street is up in the air. So we would only get involved as needed once there's interest in revising the property or demolishing the property or whatever. So that's not in our control, but when it does come up, we need to be involved. 4 Main Street, which is the replica town hall building that's partly vacant and the town should be able to take over it soon. That is as needed. As decisions get made with that, we should be involved. Westboro State Hospital grounds, that's near term and that's happening now. I drove by today and the fencing is up. Did I forward you guys the email from DCAM? They're gonna
No.
start demolishing Chauncey Hall within the week. So that's rolling. And Boundary Street, that's all that open land that the town owns. Some of it's called vacant land, some of it was maybe a sewer development project. But our role really is if things start to happen there, we should be involved as needed. Some of these are in the master plan. I'm not sure exactly what their role is, but our name was associated with them. So this one here is where appropriate, utilize surplus municipally owned properties as community spaces. Again, as needed, something comes up. The next one, identify and support reuse efforts for the town-owned properties. As they come up, we get involved as needed.
Mhm.
This is to really coordinate efforts among the cultural, historical, and environmental organizations in town. And it's ongoing. I think more and more we need to interact with the Historical Society, the Trails Committee, Open Space. I'll be perfectly honest, I don't know what Open Space Committee does. I'm learning a little bit about what some of these other groups do, but I think part of it is to learn from each other how we can support each other.
Mhm.
I don't know what a certified local government is. I don't know exactly what its responsibilities are. It supposedly has some benefits. I put that as near term. I have to work with Kathy Jubert to find out exactly what that is and do we want it. this goes back, NCH 3 has to do with the historical homes on Main Street. Again, we want to work closely with the master plan implementation committee regarding the downtown district. And this could be near term. This might be separate from the development of the downtown. This might be something where we just want to save those antique homes on Main Street. Hiring interns, it's a good idea. Don't know how it gets done, but that should be ongoing. The last one is really preserve and enhance the natural landscapes of the community. It's primarily focused on the Conservation Commission and open space. Our name was affiliated with them, so at the bottom essentially is just improving our communications with them, and the time frame is ongoing. So that is our plan. Everything else that we're putting together is kind of information about that supports the plan or has a history about the town, but this is the plan. Then there's just the references and then some of the tables. We've been through these a few times already. What I'd like to do, I'd like to put this in the hands of the planning board and Kathy Joubert. Just this part of the whole master plan and see if they can see something that's missing or needs to be expanded. Does that make sense?
Yeah, are you meaning to put it together with those edits of near term, long term, and all that stuff that you just added today?
Yes.
Would it be possible to sort of put that in the same format that the master plan is already in? Which is, I don't know.
It's like a table.
Yeah.
Well, I thought about that, and I thought about doing that, but if you look at some of these, if I scroll back down and look at this one, for example, it's going to get an ugly table very quickly because I'm going to have to copy all of this because it's very specific.
Okay.
And that's why I thought maybe just adding it into the end. But and that's kind of the reason I want to get it in front of you guys at the planning department, because if you all come back and say, no, this is unacceptable, then it forces the issue that we need to change it.
Norm, quick question. This is section 7.
Yeah.
The last draft was section 6.
That's correct. Good eye. Because I took out, section 6 needs to stand on its own. It was lumped in with section 5.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, section 6 needs to stand on its own when I looked at it.
I'll just say again, this is just such a monumental effort that you've.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
thank
Well
you.
done, Norm.
Well, we stole a lot of information I've been collecting over the years. And I never had it in one spot.
Just take the compliment.
Thank
Very
you.
good, Norm.
So are we, is everybody okay that I get this in front of the planning board in Kathy Joubert? Do you think this is a good place to have them just critique it at this point?
Absolutely. I mean, if Millie, your planning board perspective, if you feel like it is appropriate, I think. so.
Yeah, well, between this and also the implementation committee, it would be easier if there were somewhat in the same format so that we may be able to identify whether the preservation plan has something on a short-term goal and the implementation committee has it on a long-term goal, that you're not conflicting interests on that. Just out of.
Well, I can cross-check it and make sure there's no gross difference. The problem with the master plan is it only has it for, like, you're looking at this page right now. So the master plan will have it for the code NCH 2-1, and they'll
Right.
have a plan for that. But if you go down to NCH 2-2, they'll only have one requirement. This got a heck of a lot more detail than that master plan has in at all.
It does. Yeah, no doubt.
So I can cross-reference, because I haven't done that. I can cross-reference and see if there's anything that's grossly different. But
I didn't see it as you were kind of going down, but I didn't necessarily, well, I didn't see it, but I didn't mean it wasn't there.
Do you think I should get it? I almost prefer to get it to the planning board and Kathy first before we go to the master plan implementation
Yep.
committee.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be fine. I think that would be good.
All right, so that's my next step. I will get this in the hands of those people and I'll see I don't know if it's best to just send it to them or if I have to attend one of your meetings to present it, but we'll see. Whatever's the best, we'll do it.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Norm.
All right, there's only a couple of loose ends left. Bob and I attended the Historic Preservation Conference a couple weeks back that was run by Preservation Massachusetts. Actually, the fact that it was virtual meant that instead of going to the conference where you can only sit at one meeting at a time, by virtual, you could see all of the different sessions if they were of interest. So I liked it. There was some pretty good information in there I want to follow up with.
I thought it was excellent. Really, really good presentations.
Yeah, it was very informative. It was the one that interested me. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. That intrigued me was in Worcester, where they're taking the old courthouse, and it's been vacant for at least 10 years, maybe more, and they're converting it to housing. And 181 units, if I remember. And the thing that interested me is because, and I didn't appreciate, because they are using state funds, they have to follow to the letter of the law what we're asking the Historical Society to do, to follow the rules and regulations of restoration. And so they were talking about a stairwell. The stairwell, how are you going to handle the stairwell? It's that level of detail that the state was involved with. It was very eye-opening. It's a beautiful project, but it's amazing how much involvement the Massachusetts Historical Commission is involved with to make sure that it's done appropriately.
Interesting.
Is there anything that stuck out from you, Bob?
Oh, that the demolition delay discussion from Stockbridge, that was pretty interesting, how they could do indefinite delays. But I guess from what I took out of that was they were able to get in their bylaws that you can indefinitely delay a demolition unless the person can show that they can't sell it to someone who would want to preserve it.
Yeah, that was a very interesting. They essentially made a third committee. They took parts of the Historic District Commission and they took parts of the Historical Commission and they made their own commission with its own set of bylaws and rules. It's like, okay, and it works for them because they're a town of 1,500 people. So it's a different level of, interaction.
Which town is this?
Stockbridge.
Stockbridge.
1,500. Wow, it's a tiny town.
Yeah, it's a tiny town.
There's also the term they use, demolition by neglect. So one way to get around it is you just let the property go to hell. No one's going to want to buy it.
Yep.
So that's always a problem.
So it was a good meeting. I liked them live, but I like the fact that they could do video this time. And the last topic I had, Millie, I know that the master plans met a couple of times. Is there anything you can just kind of give us a flavor for?
Yeah, actually, what I'd like to do is maybe next time is to have a time set out on the agenda to go over summary, the last two, or actually what would be three implementation committees. But does everybody have a copy of the section from the natural, historical, and cultural from the master plan? Has everybody had a chance? I mean, I'd like to send that information out for people to look at and then really talk about what I had submitted based on the preservation plan and what our involvement from the Historic District Committee is in the master plan. Because it is a bit of an overlap with some of the stuff you talked about tonight.
Well, it has to be because this is based on the master plan. There's got to be some kind of overlap, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, some of the stuff that we're already doing is in there that's either been completed or we're on target with. But yeah, I'd love to see if I can do like maybe every couple of months updates, and they'll be looking for, and I'd like to get some direct input and some feedback from you guys to bring forth to the implementation committee. So what I can do is I can quickly go over basically some of the goals that they asked for. They asked for 3 goals and some recommendations, and they really do follow with the goals that you talked about tonight. Enhance downtown priority, which was number 1, maintain and expand protection of Northborough historic research, which was number 2 for I put in, and then number 3 was repurpose surplus town-owned buildings. Not in order of priority, they just asked for 3. And those are the ones that I felt were the most either prominent or had a lot of overlap in other areas like economic development or downtown. So what I'd like to do is make sure, number 1, everybody has a copy or has read the natural, cultural, and historic section of the master plan or looked it over, and maybe next time have some time to sort of summarize what we're looking at to do.
What I can do, Millie, is it's online, so I can send the link to all of the members that that one section 4, if I remember, that we're involved with. You can take a look at it. It's a good read. It's not too long.
This is the master plan you sent around before, you sent the link before, and it's from 2020, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're focusing on, with Historic District, we are primarily involved with the natural, cultural, and historic part, but even we are also in land use and economic development. And so what I did was I took the implementation committee pamphlet, which again, I can send parts of that to you guys or link it to you, and really kind of highlighted where Historic District Committee comes in and what our participation is, where our leadership would be. So I'd like to go over that in a format that I can either share with you guys online and we can just look through it maybe over 10 or 15 minutes in the next meeting, if that's possible.
Yeah, that's very possible.
Yeah, and then that would, I think, be a good way for me to use the spreadsheet as we're going along, seeing what's happening.
Approved.
And the last, I don't want to cut you off, Millie. Did you have more?
Nope, that was it. That was
Thank you. Oh, by the way, thank you for doing the meeting minutes. You guys, you and Brian Swanson have been very helpful. The last point is new members. So Amanda is full new member alternate now. Thank you.
Yay.
And we've got, and Lorna and Tom have been interviewed. So they've done the first step, and I haven't got the letter yet that they've gone through and been sworn in. So hopefully by November, I think this is probably a 7th-month process now, which is going for a record. They will be formal members. I have
Who
it that
who does the interviews? You, Norm, and one of the select board members, or-
the interview is really done by the interview committee, which is Mr. Rogers and Leslie from the select board. And then I kind of sit in and ask some questions, but it's their meeting, it's their interview. And that's all done video. So it's just, it's just complicated. Something that used to be easy is just time consuming now. We have money in our budget. Remember, we start the year, which starts it starts July the 1st. We have a $500 budget. We spent some because we bought the books on the Northborough books, but we still have about a $350 budget. Just always keep that in mind, because sometimes there are small items or small things we can do with that money. So if something comes to mind, let us know. We can discuss it and see if we can pay for it.
Norm, last year we had a membership. Was it a lifelong membership to the Mass Historical Commission? Something like that?
Oh, yeah, we did too. I'll have to look which ones, but last year we signed up for, we donated, we became members of Preservation Mass. And there's 2 or 3. I'd have to look and see.
We did the Route 20 one, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we did the Route
Yeah.
21, and I think we actually did the Historical Society. And it might be another one. I'd have to look.
Okay.
So we can bring those up and see. I'm gonna talk to Kathy Jubert about that though, because my recollection is a funny thing of us giving money to a nonprofit. I gotta make sure I can do that right.
Okay. I didn't know if those were lifetime or just,
No, none of them are lifetime.
okay.
Okay, so that's the budget, and that was it. The next meeting's supposed to be Monday, November 15th.
Bob, did
Okay.
you have your hand up on purpose?
I'm sorry?
Bob's got his hand up, it looks like.
Oh, Bob,
No, I don't.
you know what you're doing? I didn't even know we could do that.
Yeah. He was being polite and raising it.
Okay,
I just butted in.
I don't know how that happened.
You can applaud too. You had it on before too, but you turned it off. You can applaud, you can all sorts of, you can wave. There, see, I'll wave.
Gee, that's weird. I didn't touch anything.
I don't know.
It might have been my
beyond my
cat.
skill set. So we can keep chatting all night, or I can go. We have some friends up the house. I can go have myself a good drink.
Let's-
I'm
you
going to be leaving
inviting
soon.
Motion to adjourn. Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of it.
Second?
Second.
All right, let me do the roll call thing. Got to get the pictures right. Mike,
Yes.
Brian Swanson,
Yes.
Amanda. Oh, you don't get the vote yet. Lorna doesn't get the vote. Let's see. Looking for my other people. Here we go. Millie,
Yes.
myself is a yes. Leslie.
Yes.
All right, I think we got everybody.
Yes.
All right, yes, thank you, Brian Smith.